Good. So on your backs, right knee bent, left leg long. As you exhale, press into your right foot. So the right side of your pelvis comes away from the floor and your pelvis tilts towards the left. So the left side of the pelvis stays on the floor and your left leg might roll a little bit on the ground. Good. Think about your right knee traveling forwards over your right foot. It's quite easy at this point to let the right knee wander over towards the left, but we want to keep the right knee traveling forwards over the right foot. The next time your pelvis comes back onto the floor, cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. So now we start to add the shoulders and the head into the movement. So as you press into your right foot and the right side of your pelvis lifts, that's it. You're also rolling across your upper back. So you're rolling towards the back of the left shoulder. That's it, Sheila. You can slide your fingers, your right fingers out on the floor, away from your body on the left side of yourself. Very nice. Good. And of course, let your head roll to the left as well. Very nice. So we've got this lovely movement. So if we're talking about getting our body moving more easily, this is one of the movements that I find really helpful because the whole of the body is involved. We start the movement by pressing into the right foot, but then we let the movement travel up all the way to the shoulder and the head. So the whole of the body is involved, but in this sort of quite easy, comfortable way. Okay, when you've had enough on that side, you can uncross your arms, lengthen your leg out. That's it. Let both legs be long. You could give your legs a little roll or a bounce. And then leave your right leg long, bend your left knee, bring your left foot to stand on the floor. Good, let your arms rest on the floor beside you. And so we'll start the foot pressing movement with the left foot when you're ready. And so again, remember, as you press into your left foot, try to send your knee forwards over your foot rather than letting it roll over to, hi Donna, over to the, what am I trying to say, over to the right. So Donna, I think, because we're sort of on side 2 or something, I think once you're settled, just do a bit of tilting your knees from side to side, okay? That will be fine. Good. So the rest of you, as you exhale, we don't have to, but I always like to combine the pressing into my foot, the left foot now, with my out breath and letting the pelvis tilt towards the right. And then when you're ready, you can add the arms in. So crossing the arms over your chest with your left arm on top this time. And as you press into your left foot, now allowing yourself to roll across the upper back as well. Let the head roll to the right. Very nice. Good. You're just allowing your whole body now to be involved in the movement. So even the right leg, which is passive, there's still a change in how that leg contacts the ground. So as the pelvis tilts to the right, you might roll a bit more to the outer edge of that leg. Okay, so just a couple more times. And then again, in your own time, again, in your own time, you can lengthen both legs out. Give them a little bit of a roll. Very nice. And then from lengthening your legs out, you can fold both knees into your chest if you like. and hold around the top of your knees. You can at that point just have a couple of quiet breaths, or you could rock a little bit from side to side. So I was thinking when I was teaching last night how it's really important when these bits where you can sort of tune into your body and do what feels good for you. And yes, if you'd like to take your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out, you could do. Yes, or a little bit of what we've got going on there, Mel, a little bit of happy baby, by all means. And from here, you're going to be rolling. So you're going to be lengthening your legs out again, and then rolling onto your belly. Sorry, there's someone at my door, so let me just get that while you're rolling onto your belly. Okay, so when you've arrived on your belly, just settle however is most. We're going to be doing some things with the legs. So settle however is most comfortable with your arms and your head. And actually, perhaps the first thing is to give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle, just to help you settle down and be a bit more comfortable. Good. And then what you're going to do, and this is quite a small movement, this first thing, is with one leg. So just choose one leg. You're going to, by bending your knee, lift your foot a little bit off the floor so you can tap your foot, sort of drop your foot on the floor. So personally, I would not want to lift my leg that high because I wouldn't then want to drop it. So you're trying to find this sort of quite passive movement. You bend your knee, that's it, very nice. You bend your knee so you can lift your leg perhaps a couple of inches, drop, tap the foot on the floor. That's it, good. And then with the same foot, and it's fine to do this with socks on, you're going to tuck your toes under and then untuck them, and do that a few times. Tuck the toes under, untuck them. So we are going to be doing quite a few feet things today. Tuck the toes under, untuck them. Good. And then come to the other leg and do the same thing. So again, the sort of lifting your foot, letting it fall back onto the floor. So sort of tapping the floor, dropping the foot onto the floor. I think not taking the foot too high. I don't know, it makes me start to think, oh, I'm going to hurt my foot if I take it too high and I don't want to drop it. Good. So maybe one more tap and then do a few times tucking your toes under, releasing your toes, tucking your toes under, releasing your toes. Very nice. And then just let the legs go. If you come back to giving your pelvis another wiggle, and then just have a quiet breath or two on your belly, which I know for some of you is a place you rather like, not the same for all of us. And as we breathe on our belly, it might be that we take our awareness to the back of our body and feel the movement, particularly of the inhalation in the back of the body. And then from your belly, from being on your belly, you're going to fold back into child pose. And in child pose, we're not going to be here long, but in child pose, just, again, you might like to wiggle your pelvis a bit from side to side. So, Mel, I know that's something you like. I'm pretty certain that's you who likes to do that. But yeah, if you like to come into child pose, if you want to give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. And then perhaps just a couple of quiet breaths in child pose, giving the weight of your pelvis down towards the floor through your heels. So one more cycle of breath in child pose. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then come on to hands and knees. And I think at this point, if you've still got, well, you don't have to take your socks off, but we're going to be doing some sort of things for the feet. So you might find it's helpful to take socks off if you have socks on. So come onto hands and knees, lengthen each leg out behind you in turn. And just really feel the back of the knee opening, the toes stretching as they're tucked under. And then what we're going to do is tuck both lots of toes under and walk our hands in towards our knees. Let our knees come off the floor so we're up in a sort of little mini squat. Yeah, we are going to do that one, Alison, on the balls of the feet. I have to ease myself into it. So a little bit of rocking forwards and back on the balls of your feet. And the other thing I tend to do is a bit of spreading my toes out. So particularly the little toe, which is the one that can get a bit, can disappear under the others. So spread the toes out here. And then we can come into our delightful kneeling foot stretch where we're sitting back over our heels with our toes tucked under. And let the shoulders drop. Good. Not for too long. Certainly not me for too long. And then come forwards onto your hands and knees again. Drop your feet on the floor. Nice bit. And then again, lengthen each leg out in turn. And actually, once you've lengthened each leg out in turn, then you're just going to see, make sure you're at the front of your mat. You're going to see how it feels to come into plank pose, which is both legs lengthening out behind you. So, yeah, coming into your plank pose, have a few breaths here. So we know when our pelvis is in the right place for plank pose because we feel our abdominal muscles working. We don't need to make them work. They will work to stop our pelvis sagging down to the ground. Okay. And then from your plank pose, when you're ready, come down, let your knees come down, and then walk your hands in towards your knees again. Come back up onto the balls of your feet. So we're coming back into another foot stretch. So you could just do a little bit of rocking on the balls of your feet if you like. I've got my fingertips on the floor. You could have the flats of your hands or your knuckles. And then again, come back down. So you're sitting back over your heels. See how this feels a second time, toes tucked under. Dropping your shoulders down. Smiling. And then from here, we will come forwards. Untuck the toes again. We'll give the feet a bit of a drum on the floor. One last time, probably isn't the last time, but once again, we'll lengthen the legs out behind us, tucking the toes under, one at a time here. And actually, from lengthening your second leg back behind you, you could then bring that leg all the way forwards into a lunge. Okay, and you might find you need to step your back leg back a little bit. So we're trying to feel our front knees over our front heel. We've got our back toes tucked under or flat. We're, as we exhale, giving the weight of the pelvis down to the floor. Now, it could be that you want to do a little bit of easing sort of forwards and back in your lunge. So I would untuck my back toes, let my pelvis rock back, let my front leg lengthen out a bit, look back. And then you could ease forward. So if you wanted to do a little bit of easing forwards and back in lunge, that might be quite nice on a Friday morning. When we swap sides in a minute into our other side of lunge, you could go through dog pose if you like to swap sides. You don't have to, Sarah, obviously maybe, I think probably better for you to do it from hands and knees. So perhaps this next time you come into lunge, if you are going to come into dog pose, settle in lunge for a couple of breaths, tuck your back toes under, and then you can plant your hands down in lunge, exhale, step your front leg back. And just have a couple of breaths in your dog pose. See how dog pose feels. And then we'll stay a bit longer in our next dog pose. So from dog pose, you can either come to hands and knees, or you can exhale and step the other foot forwards into lunge. So let yourself arrive in lunge for a couple of breaths. Let your back knee come down to the ground. Your toes can be tucked under or flat. And then if you want to do a bit of easing forwards and back, my knee's happier if I untuck my toes for this one. So we can do a bit of easing back, looking back, keep the chest close to the thighs. So the front leg is unlikely to straighten out completely, unless you've got very long hamstrings, unlike me. So I quite like to keep the front knee bent and my chest close to my thigh. And then you really feel the stretch in the sort of middle of the thigh as you go back, which is in the middle of the hamstring. Okay, now I think from this lunge, we're going to be coming into another dog pose, and you could do that from hands and knees or directly from lunge. And then we're just going to work our toes a little bit in this dog pose. So coming into a dog pose in your own way. Have a few breaths, settle yourself in dog. And then I wanted us to move our toes sort of in the opposite direction to what we were doing in our foot stretches. So 1 foot at a time, you're coming to the ball of your foot, then through the tips of your toes onto the top of your toes. But just 1 foot at a time, all the way onto the top of the toes. So all of the foot through the tips of the toes onto the top of the toes. And do that, go from side to side with that a few times. So we're really lengthening out the front of the ankle as we do this. That's it, good. That's it, very nice, lovely. And it might be nice once you've done that a few times on each foot to then have a couple of breaths in dog pose where you're not doing that, but your knees might be bent. And then from dog, walking your hands in towards your feet, into a forward bend. And obviously once we arrive in a forward bend, we're sort of seeing how does our lower back feel? Do we need to bend our knees, rest our elbows on our thighs? Are we happy to just let our spine release forwards, our head, our arms? With a breath or two here before we roll up into standing, or walk the hands up the fronts of the legs if the lower back is needing a bit of extra support today. So arriving in standing. And you're going to settle down in standing with your feet a little distance apart. And I'm just turning side on because we're going to a bit more pelvis wiggling. We're going to bend our knees and wiggle our pelvis. So in standing, bend the knees and wiggle the pelvis. Very nice, from side to side. Yes, and you can have the arms in Hillary. Yes, lovely, lots of whatever sort of wiggling you want to do. But particularly just this feeling when we wiggle the pelvis, we're trying to just release the lower back a little bit. And then let your knees straighten but not lock. And we're going to do a bit more for the feet. So rocking our weight forwards onto the balls of our feet and letting our heels come off the ground. So I said there was lots of work for the feet today. So see how this feels a few times. Good. Bringing your weight onto the balls of your feet, bringing your heels back down. And then if you go up and you feel reasonably steady, you can let your arms float up. Good. Up by the sides of your head and have a few breaths there. You're feeling long and tall, shoulders relaxed and soft, very nice, good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Sorry, I'm about to fall out of this. And then as you come down, let your heels come down. You can bring your arms down to the side and then sweep your arms forwards into a forward bend. Of course, bringing your elbows to your thighs if you like. So I always think the forward bend is a really good place to sort of do what your body feels that it would like to do today. So if it feels that you would like to go on into a squat, you can do that. If it feels that you like to do those sort of weeping willow movements where you trail your fingers from side to side, those are a couple of suggestions. I'll offer other suggestions as we go on. And of course, there's resting the elbows on the thighs. So maybe just another breath or two in your forward bend. And then as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And arriving back on your mat. Back with your feet a little distance apart. You didn't leave your mat, but back in standing. And then taking the arms up and come to reaching up into one arm and then the other. Long through one side of the body. So in this one, yes, so I shift my weight into my reaching arm side. Yeah. So I'm reaching my right arm, I'm shifting my weight into my right foot. Good. And then we're going to take this on into the one. I'm just going to come onto my knees so you can see my hands there. We're going to reach into the one. You reach up through the right arm and then you catch your left hand around your right wrist and draw yourself up and over. And then swap sides, reach up through your left arm, catch your right hand around your left wrist, draw yourself up and over. Good. And then again, as you come back to the center, sweep your arms out to the sides, come back into a forward bend. So remember in the forward bend, we had those couple of options from the previous forward bend. There was a squat. There was the sort of sweeping your arms side to side around your feet. What I'm keen on at the moment in my forward bend is bending my knees so my chest comes close to my thighs and then catching my hands around the back of my legs, my lower legs. And having a few breaths there. So that's another sort of thing you can do in your forward bend. And from all those little variations, it might be nice then to just do a sort of normal, simple forward bend before you roll back up again. And as you roll up, really feel you're sinking your heels into the ground. And that's what's helping you roll back up into standing. You might want to have a little shake out. So we're going to come on to a couple of balances. We're going to start with sort of simple version of the first balance, and then we're going to take it into a more involved version. So what I'd like you to do is start by reaching your right arm up. So your feet are a little distance apart. We're reaching the right arm up. We're sending our weight into our right leg and foot so that we can then just hopefully quite easily sneak the left foot off the floor, catch the top of the left foot. Let the left knee drop towards the floor and then bring the raised hand onto your breastbone. So we're just hopefully in this little sort of quiet place where we're seeing how does it feel to be on one foot today? How can we soften as much as possible, particularly around the shoulders, around the front ribs, the jaw, the tongue. Good. Have another couple of breaths here, if possible. Very nice. Lovely. So we always get to that interesting part where we start to notice that standing leg becoming a little bit achy. Maybe. We'll come down, we'll have a little shake out, and we'll try the same thing on the other side. Shake out of arms and legs. Looking down at your feet, perhaps settling your feet so they're hip width apart, a little distance apart and parallel. Maybe for a moment before we do the other side, close your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel perhaps how the two legs feel different. So the one that you've just stood on maybe feels a bit different to the other leg. Perhaps a little bit more, muscles a little bit more achy. And then you can open your eyes and take your left arm up. So start to reach up with your left arm, start to shift your weight into your left leg. So the more we can shift our weight into the left leg, the easier it becomes to peel the right foot, to sneak the right foot off the floor. Once we've caught the top of our right foot, we can bring the left hand onto our breastbone and just settle. Right knee's dropping towards the floor. We can always go and stand near a wall if we need to take the left hand onto a wall instead of our breastbone. Good. And just really that feeling of how can we soften here? How can we release tension in the shoulders, from the front ribs, from the face? Very nice. Good. Okay, well done. Do come down in your own time. Have a little shake out. So we're going to revisit another version of that balance, but as part of a little mini sequence. So if you organise yourself so you're facing the length of your mat and you've got a bit of room to step forwards, and from here, from having your feet a little distance apart, you're going to step your right foot forwards. So sort of walking pace, not too tiny, not too huge. And then do a little bit of shifting your weight forwards and back. So a little bit of going for a walk without going anywhere. And then what you're going to do from here is then settle down through both feet. Keep the back knee straight, but we're going to bend the front knee. So before we come into the balance, we're going to come into a forward bend. And in this forward bend, we're going to fold forwards over this bent front leg. You could rest your forearms on your front thigh, but you can also fold forwards and bring your chest to rest on that front thigh and let your head go. And it might be that your fingers or your hands come down to the floor. If they do, try to keep your weight in your heels and don't let yourself take too much weight into your hands. The heels and the whole of the feet. Have a couple of breaths there, really letting the head go, feeling the contact of the heels on the ground. And then as you exhale, sink down into your heels and footprints, come back into standing. That's it, let yourself come into standing. Now, with your right hand, you're going to make a mudra. You're going to touch your thumb onto the tip of one of your fingers or the nail of one of your fingers. You choose which finger. And then once you've done that, you're going to bring your hand onto your breastbone. So this is the right hand. And then we're going to start to shift our weight into our front foot. So we can come up onto the ball of the back knee. Now the front knee is straight but not locked. And then we're going to catch our back foot. So come back to where we were a moment ago in this same balance. And then from here, you're going to go further, if you like, by reaching backwards with your left foot and forwards with your right hand that's got the mudra. And you can turn your palm up to face the ceiling. So I always think when we've got a mudra in this balance, it's a bit like we're giving a gift to someone. And as you look forwards, your hand could be in the corner of your eye, in your peripheral vision. So reaching forwards with your arm, backwards with your foot. Breathing. Feeling yourself. Very nice, lovely. Fantastic. Yes, come out, have a little shake out, do whatever you need to do before we come on to side two. And remember, the first thing we're doing is that forward bend again. So feet a little distance apart, feet side by side a little distance apart, stepping your left foot forwards. And a little bit of rocking your weight into the front foot, into the back heel. That's it. So just when we're rocking like this, it's about this trying to drop our weight down into our feet. Our feet are the sort of focus of our awareness. not up in our head, which is so often how it is in the rest of life. So feet, probably why we like walking and things like that so much, because it really, gets us down into our feet. So settle yourself down, back leg straight, front knee bent. From here, you're going to start to fold forward. So you could rest for a moment with your forearm, your elbows on your front leg thigh. And then you can fold further if you like. So your chest comes down to your thigh, you're letting your head go. We're staying very rooted through your heels. Remember, your front knee is bent. Just really releasing the head, releasing the arms, keeping the weight predominantly through the feet. The hands can just help stabilize you. And then let a breath come in as you exhale down into your footprints, back up into standing. With your left hand, make the mudra, touch your thumb onto one of the fingers. So it's the pad of the finger or the nail of the finger. It doesn't have to be the same finger as the other side. And then your hand comes to your breastbone. And we start to bring our weight into our front foot. So that up on the ball of the back foot, the front knee straightening but not locking. And then we catch our back foot. We have a moment in this other balance in the center, and then we move on by reaching our foot backwards, our heel away from our bottom, and our hand forwards, turning the palm up, offering your hand. So your hand is like an offering or a gift. And so breathing here in this movement, this shape, this position, where you're reaching forwards and back. Yes, that looks beautiful. Really nice. Wonderful, good. Yes, and if you come out, just do whatever you feel that you want to do for a moment. We're then going to do a very simple, I say a very simple balance. We're going to do sort of quite a quiet balance as one last thing. So if you feel that you need to do a forward bend before that, you can do. So I'm going to come a little bit nearer. I'm just going to show you that what we're going to do to start in this next thing is we're going to bring our hands into prayer pose. And then you can rest the thumbs on the breastbone. And then from prayer pose, we're going to open the 3 middle fingers into the lotus flower mudra. And so sometimes we do this one as a sort of thing to stretch our hands, but actually we're doing it in a more meditative way now. So I've disappeared into the darkness. I'm sure it'll go light again. So yeah, personally, I wouldn't be really stretchy with my hands in this. We're having this image, this beautiful image of a flower at our heart. Okay, so let's just settle down. We're going to start, give the hands a shake out if you like. You're going to start bringing your hands in prayer pose, Anjali Mudra at your breastbone. And then from there, you're going to move on with your hands into that lovely lotus flower mudra, where the 3 middle fingers and the sort of upper part of the palms move away from each other. So the thumbs and the little fingers and the base of the hands are still touching. So we have this image of a flower at our heart. And then we're going to shift our weight very simply onto our right foot. And we're going to bring our left foot to stand on our right foot. So, and if you need to keep a few toes on the floor, that's fine, a few toes of the left foot. So how does it feel to settle in this sort of quiet balance? And we have this image, this flower at our heart. Feel the breath come in, the breath leave us. Maybe one more cycle of breath if you can. And then come down, a little bit of shake out. Shake out arms and legs, and then bring your hands back into, oh good, the lights come back on. Hands back into Anjali Mudra, back into prayer pose. And then again, opening your 3 middle fingers out into the lotus flower. You've got the thumbs touching still, the little fingers touching the base of the palms. And then starting to shift your weight onto your left foot. Come onto the ball of the right foot, the toes. And again, if you're feeling a bit wobbly, it's fine. You could still just have some toes on the floor to help you settle and steady. And all the time we're holding this beautiful mudra, this beautiful lotus flower mudra at our heart. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave. Good. Maybe 1 or 2 more cycles of breath, depending how you're getting on. Very nice. You could be there all day, but come down. Give your arms and legs a little shake out. Let's just before, because we're going to come out of standing now. So maybe let's do this sort of loose swinging twist where we often start with this in standing. Swinging our arms from side to side. So in a moment, we're going to come down through forward bend, dog pose, child pose, and then we're going to revisit something we were doing last week. And you might, yes, Archie, that's why I'm saying this now, you might need some cushions. So if you need to grab something while you're standing up, that might be quite a good idea. You need to go somewhere. And then come to the back of your mat when you've grabbed cushions or pillows, or it's good we've all got this stuff around. So at the back of your mat, hands in prayer pose. We'll just move like we do at the beginning of sun salute to take us down. So if we have our hands in prayer pose, we let a breath come in. As we exhale, take the arms down and then up. Feel long and tall, let the breath come in and then curling down into a forward bend. And from your forward bend, walking your hands forwards into dog pose. And I did think actually in this dog pose, if you feel like doing any of your one-legged dog poses, I was just thinking it might feel quite nice to do that. So by all means, you could do any of those one-legged versions before you fold down into child pose for a couple of breaths. So when you come down, either child pose or kneeling, just let yourself have a couple of quiet breaths. So this feeling of being in contact with the ground, closer to the ground, of feeling the movement of your breath within you. And then what we're going to do, which I do know is a bit challenging for some of us. So first of all, you might want to come onto your hands and knees and stretch each leg out behind you. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to alternate between Virasana, which is the one where we sit down in between our heels. So that's why you might need a cushion. So we're going to do this lovely one when we sit down. So some of you I know like this, but this is, Virasana is asking, there's a little bit of rotation in the knee. It's also asking the front of the ankles to really open. So the other thing you might do is a folded blanket under the tops of your ankles if you're on a sort of hard floor. We have a little bit of a wiggle. So, I mean, it is helpful, this one. We haven't done so much in lockdown, but yes, and exactly. If you're someone who likes or is happy going back a little bit. So we're going to move quite quickly. We're going to move in and out of this 3 times. So I would say the 3rd time you come into Virasana is the time to stay. So you could tuck your toes under, tuck your pelvis under, have a little lengthen back. And then come back into dog pose and have a lengthen out in dog. And then we'll come back into Virasana. Okay, and then so the third time, if you're really itching to stay in Virasana, that will be your chance. So it feels really, I just think, oh, it feels so nice in the fronts of the ankles to come back into dog pose after Virasana. Another thing when you come down into Virasana, it might be that you roll your calves out of the way to create a bit more space for that bending, that sort of fold of the knees. So when you sit down in Virasana, if your sit bones need to be on the floor or on your cushion. And then as you go back, we're trying to tuck the tailbone and the pelvis under. So we want to keep this sort of soft feeling in the front of the body. We're not arching in the lower back. We're trying to really feel that we're stretching through the quads. So yes, be very good for all that fell walking. Stretching through the quads. And then again, so just look at your knees. So Sheila, it looks to me that your knees are wandering a little bit. So sometimes if the knees start to wander, and again, I've gone a bit dark, so you might not see my knees wandering. If the knees start to wander, we've maybe gone a bit further than we should. That's it, because we're trying, it's the quads are trying to get out of the stretch, basically. Come and have another lengthen out in dog pose, and then we'll do a third Virasana. Now this time, if you wanted to, if you've got a sofa or a bed near you, you could arrange yourself so that in Virasana, you lean back towards your sofa or your bed, or so that you have something to lean on. And I'm thinking here, if I was going to make myself really comfortable, I'd then put a cushion under my head. You could lean back against a wall if there isn't yes, Sheila, you don't have any walls there, so you'll just have, if you don't have anything, that's absolutely fine. Well done with the knees, Sheila, that's much, much better this time. So, Virasana is quite, I find quite tough, but it is so good for really getting into some of this tightness in the quads. B, you might want something under your head there at the sofa, possibly. Yeah, put a cushion under your head, I think. So when we haven't got something to lean against, the shoulders and the neck can get a little bit achy or a little bit tight. So then come out, come into dog pose. You can feel very pleased with yourself. You've done Virasana. It's really a really helpful movement if we are doing things like cycling, walking, running, to lengthen us through the front of the body. Very nice. And yes, after that last dog pose, yes, Sarah, you're going to come sit in kneeling, facing the long edge of your mat. The rest of you, we're coming into cobbler pose, facing the long edge of your mat. So when we come into Virasana, we're sort of this inward rotation of our hips. So it's then really good to do the opposite, which is cobbler pose. And Sarah, you're going to be coming into pinwheel in a moment, so that's also going to have that effect. So from cobbler pose, you're going to then let one knee come on top of the other knee and slide the top leg back. And so actually why pinwheel is so great is because we're doing the inward rotation in the back leg and the outward rotation in the front leg, or the knee here. So pinwheel, we do both. It's like doing Virasana and cobbler pose in one. And probably feels more enjoyable. So do a bit of circling. It's nice to see all the cats enjoying a bit of a fuss. Good. So a bit of circling in pinwheel, and then we'll also come into our pinwheel forward bend for a couple of quiet breaths. So turning towards this knee that's going out to the side, the leg that's externally rotated, and folding the weight of your body down over your thigh. Let your shoulders soften as much as possible. Just have a little quiet moment, feeling your breath, giving the weight of your body to the ground. Now, I realise the next thing may cause a little bit of a Friday insurrection. So Alison and Hilary may want to do this your own way. I was going to do from pinwheel into cow leg spy. So we'd lean onto the hand. So the leg that we just bent over, we're going to lean onto that arm. And then we're going to start drawing a big circle with this back leg, which will take us into cow legs. But if Alison and Hilary prefer to do your hands and knees version into cow legs, the Friday way into cow legs. So I was really, that's it. Reluctant to do this one. You are very welcome, or anyone else, but the rest of us, we're trying this. So we draw this big circle, and at the point when our knees meet, then it's the foot that starts circling, yeah? So at this beginning bit, it's the knee that's leading, and then the foot starts to lead, and then eventually we end up in our cow legs. Yes, and just, yeah, how does that feel? And it might be that you need that cushion again. So of course, we're probably going to feel that the top leg sit bone is not as easily on the ground. And there are options here, remember. So the top leg could come all the way back here, yeah? Or your bottom leg could lengthen out. So you've got these options. Just make sure your knees are, yeah, happy. Your hips might be less happy. Have a little wiggle. And then we'll turn towards our top leg. This is always challenging to work out which way. Well done, Mel. So turning towards the top leg. All the time we're trying to give the pelvis down to the ground, keep the shoulders relaxed. If at any point cow legs just gets too much, lean back onto your arms, uncross your legs. If you're someone who likes cow legs, when you come back to the center, you could see how it feels to fold forwards, but don't do this if it's already feeling quite challenging in the hips. Yeah, but if you rather like cow legs, yeah, very nice, good. And then do ease yourself out. So if you're happy in cow legs, have another couple of breaths. So if you're just really thinking, yes, I need to come out, lean back onto the hands, ease the legs out. So yes, I think another really good one, B, for all the walking. So as we know, there's nothing quite like cow legs for really stretching here on the outside of the hips. So we're going to do that whole little sequence on the other side. So Sarah knees and going into kneeling, everyone else coming into cobbler pose. And we'll just do a couple of things in cobbler pose. So Sarah, in kneeling, you could do a little bit of cat to start with, so rounding and curving. And those of you in cobbler could do a little bit of rocking from side to side, seeing how that feels. Good, very nice. And then we can all, Sarah and everyone who's in cobbler pose, we can all do a little sort of side lengthening movement where we leave the legs and pelvis behind and we take one arm up and over. So Sarah, you could do this in kneeling as well if you wanted to. That's it. Okay. And sort of getting up, doing that dog thing, getting up, turning around, lying back down again. See, Donna, he's been very good. He's on his bed. He's still trying to make a bid for the sofa. So from cobbler pose or Sarah from kneeling, then come on into pinwheel on side 2. And a bit of circling and settling. So again, I often find that pinwheel's how I often want to start my yoga practice. And, you know, as I said, we're working on our hips in those 2 orientations. We're also in pinwheel. For me, it really releases tension around the pelvis into the lower back. If our shoulders are feeling tight, we can do this sort of hug where we cross our arms and we let our head hang a bit. So this can feel quite nice for the upper back. Remember, yes. And then whenever you want to, you can release your arms, you can turn to face the knee that's going out to the side, we can fold into pinwheel. So this is, I think, mainly when it's particularly nice for the lower back, this pinwheel forward bend. Resting our weight down over that knee that's going out to the side. Having a few quiet breaths there. So it's nice for the lower back. It's also calming for us. So you can have another couple of breaths if you like in your pinwheel forward bend. But we do from here have the joy of moving into side two of cow legs. So either from pinwheel or Hilary and Alison if you want to do the other hands and knees way into cow legs. So from pinwheel, we're leaning onto the arm of the leg we just folded over. And we're starting to do this circle. So first of all, it's our knee leads, but then as the knees come together, it's our foot that leads. Just exploring this movement. The leg traveling back behind us, and then the foot traveling around. And eventually, from circling your leg, when you feel ready, you might be enjoying circling your leg around. When you feel ready, coming on into cow legs on your second side. And a little bit of a wiggle at this point. And of course, you can put a cushion under you. Of course, you can do these options where the top foot comes back to the other side of the knee or the bottom leg lengthens out. We just, we are obviously going to feel that the hips, we're going to feel the hips in cow legs, but we don't want the knees to feel in pain. Good. Little wiggle. Can we turn towards the top leg? Atticus is getting some very nice fusses there, Rosie. So good, turning towards the top leg, having a few breaths there. So the idea, I'm sure, as you all know, of turning towards the top leg is to help that sit bone settle a bit more. Yeah, the one that's probably not so heavy. So when we turn back to the center, maybe we're a bit more settled evenly through our sit bones. Here, if you would like to fold forwards, you can. If you'd like to come out, you can. It depends how cow legs feels. Yeah. That really fun. Do give your legs a bit of a lengthen out. And yes, and like you're doing, Rosie, actually, I think after we come out of this one, it might be nice to take the legs long and wide, just for a couple of breaths. We're going to be lying down in a moment. We're there, but long and wide. And yes, exactly. So you might think, oh, this is so much better than cow legs. You might think this is so much worse. So if it's hard, lean back on your hands. If this is challenging, you might be able to sit your hands on your thighs. Some of you might, I know, Mel, yes, some of you might love this one, folding forwards. So, we're all made differently. And yeah, so if you come into wide legs and you think, oh, this is great, then enjoy it. If you come into wide legs and you're thinking, this is a little bit of a challenge, and Sarah, yes, for you, obviously you could be going forwards with your legs not wide if you wanted to, or even with your knees bent, sort of Paschimottanasana. So we're going to lie down. If you want to have a couple more breaths with your legs long and wide, absolutely. We're just going to do a couple of very simple things on your backs to settle down. So you can put on socks and jumpers, maybe just have your blanket to hand. And settle yourselves onto your backs with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. So We are at 10:30, but we're, if you can stay for another 5 minutes, we'll just do a few nice things on our backs. So, yes, settling down onto your backs, knees bent, feet standing on the floor. Just feel the weight of your body on the ground. And what I'd like you to do here is come back to the movement we did earlier on. If you're right at the beginning of class, of your knees tilting to the right and to the left. And see how it feels to revisit that movement. Knees tilting from side to side. And once you've done that a few times, you can then take your feet a bit wider if you like. Probably not you, Sarah, so that your feet are as wide as the narrow edge of your mat, and you can tilt your knees from side to side with your feet wider. And it might be that you would like to let your knees come all the way down to the floor on one side and have a couple of breaths there. Let your head roll in the opposite direction. If your knees don't quite reach and you've got a cushion to hand, you can slide a cushion under them. And so they do the same thing on both sides. So let the knees come down to one side for a couple of breaths. Let the knees come down to the other side for a couple of breaths. And then finally, before we just lie quietly, you might like to fold your knees into your chest. Hold around your knees. And so, yeah, when you folded your knees into your chest, anything that you feel drawn to doing at that point it might be then bringing your legs back to the floor and just settling down. Good. And we're going to finish as we started with our sighing breaths. So once you've brought either your feet to the floor, you can put your blanket on now if you want to. You've got your feet on the floor and you've got your legs long. Rest your hands on your belly or your arms by your side. We're going to come to 3 cycles of our sighing breath. So where we let the breath come in through our nostrils. We have a big sighing out breath through our mouth, and we all that stuff that we feel we need to let go of, whatever it is. A big sort of groany sighing breath. So maybe do one more if you like, breathing in. Breathing out. And let yourself now settle just for the last, minute or so. Let yourself settle with your natural breath. So you're no longer doing anything to your breathing, not trying to change it in any way. You're just allowing your breath to move through you. Just accepting that your body knows how the best way to breathe for you right now, whether it's soft and shallow, long and deep, however it is. Letting the weight of your body rest on the ground. Closing your eyes, letting the eyes rest back into the sockets. So I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times, and just no rush. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Rosie.